All right, part 2 of the paper is our 4th paragraph, which is really our body paragraph still, and it contains the resolution of the story. So in my clincher, I wrote that they finally, after all this trouble, made friends with Shoshone. This is the S for Shoshone women. That's my sign for women, symbol for women. And then in my next sentence, I will say that Lewis and his men, however, find themselves in the Indian village. And in the next sentence, they are surrounded. Oh, I misspelled surrounded here. They are surrounded by hostile Shoshone. You can say warriors or men or just Shoshone. And then Lewis came in holding only the US flag, which was his intention to calm everybody, but also was very dangerous for him because he didn't have anything to defend himself with. But that caused the warriors to relax. And Sacagawea also realized that she found her brother. So you could mention something about Sacagawea and her brother reuniting after all these years, just coincidentally. And in the next sentence, I would say something, again, repeat something about Lewis, that he was a man who wouldn't give up and who stayed calm under pressure. And in overall topic sentence, again, I would say that Lewis and Clark made friends with the Indians in order to achieve their goal of the going west expedition. So this is kind of the I just described the whole story in my own sentences, in my retelling. This was my way to do it. Obviously, you guys are going to create your own keyword outline, your own keywords, what is important to you or what will help you remember. This was just me showing you the example, so don't obviously copy it exactly. Okay, so then in the last paragraph, which is your conclusion paragraph, by the way, on the page 154, they actually don't have space for conclusion paragraph for some reason. So what you will do is you will pause this video right now. No, not right now because you don't know what to do yet. But you will pause this video and go get a line paper. So pause it, go get a line paper. And then when you come back, we'll do the conclusion paragraph. So on your line paper for the conclusion, I want you to actually write, this number 5 conclusion, and then the first line will just have the sentence that will answer our lesson learned. So really, the first is, what is the lesson learned? And I said that with the help of some friends and enough grit, the adventure can continue, or we can get on adventures, or we can explore things. So something like that. And don't forget, this is important, in the conclusion paragraph, do not use the word be or I, even though I just used it. So I would say something like, Lewis and Clark, with the help of Sacagawea and enough grit, continued their adventure and really discovered the West US territories. Then in the next sentence, basically the question could be, what literary devices, so this is our orange highlighter actually when we highlight, remember? Our orange highlighter would be, what are the dress-ups, what are the literary devices that catch our attention, that create atmosphere. So here, what are the literary devices that create atmosphere of the overall story? And I wrote wearily, hostile, and must not fail. I didn't write that down. Create the overall atmosphere of the story. The atmosphere of the story is one of resolution and danger and not giving up, and yet tiredness and weariness. And all of these words really describe it well, or create that atmosphere well. So the author is really using good literary devices to create that atmosphere. In the next paragraph or next sentence, the question really is, what is the historical value of this overall story, And I wrote, brings Lewis and Clark to life. So obviously this story, the overall story of it is that to us people who are so far removed from this long time ago of the Western territories, uncharted, it brings it to life for us. We understand what the people suffered, what they had to go through and how they felt. And we also understand a little bit of the Indian perspective too, even though this is mostly written from Lewis and Clark's perspective. The next sentence is summarize overall story. So this is where I would say something like, this is why I have fun through US history. I would say something like, this story is a fun, true story that describes a portion of US history to us. And in the fourth, this is actually the overall clincher, 2 to 3 words that are reflected or repeated from the first sentence of the whole paper. And so I would say a successful expedition, that's the name of it, right? Again, in quotation marks, and it would be capitalized. Successful expedition is an enjoyable story written by Lori Verstegen. And that would be my summary. Now, just a couple of notes. You guys are not allowed to say I, or we, or us, or me in the last paragraph only. You can actually use the I, we, and us in the paragraphs before, however, not in the conclusion paragraph. The conclusion paragraph is basically you telling us how you liked the story and what you think is important about this story, why it has any kind of value whatsoever, but you're not using the word I. So you have to say how you like the story without saying I like the story. So rather you could use a sentence similar to this is an enjoyable story or this is not an enjoyable story. Another thing that's really important about the paragraphs before is you need to write everything in the present tense, and this is all on your page 151, by the way. So read that before you even start writing. But you are supposed to write in present tense. So for example, when you're writing about Lewis and Clark, you will not say that they needed to find horses, but you will say they need to find horses, or they did not. You're not going to write they found Shoshone village. You will say they find a Shoshone village. Okay, so you're writing it in a present tense, typically for a literary critical analysis like that. Don't forget to use vocab words. Again, our vocab words are amiable, antagonist, distraught, and awestruck. You have to look them up and write down the definition first before you even start your paper. And you're supposed to write or use a vocab word of the nuance in each paragraph of the body paragraph. So you'll have 3 vocab words. For example, you could say, the otherwise amiable, wink wink, Indians become hostile due to Lewis's usage of the wrong word. Or distraught explorers needed to get horses. Or awestruck Sacagawea realized that the Shoshone chief was her very own brother. So those are examples on how to use the vocab words. Now, before you even start writing and before you create your keyword outline, few things. Have the vocab, obviously. Watch this video carefully. If you don't understand it, go back to, where you kind of lost me and, or I lost you, sorry. And rewind and rewatch it. But very importantly, you need to read the story on page 152, the successful expedition story, because this is the story you are writing about. So I think that's about it for now. And I will get back with you with something else.